Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. The Gun, B. Brooks, R. Ellis on this Wednesday. All right, let's continue the Eagles discussion, guys, as we are 15 days away from the draft, 2 weeks from tomorrow. And Devin White was sort of the big NFL news yesterday. He wants out of Tampa. He's not happy with the contract situation. He's entering the fifth-year option of his rookie deal. He's not happy with the direction of the organization. There's a lot of different things he's not happy with. Now, this doesn't guarantee that he's going to be gone. We know that this kind of stuff happens from time to time, and then all of a sudden, both sides came to an agreement, and he's, long-term deal. But anyway, he's been a really good player in his days since being drafted 5th overall in 2019. 4 seasons there. Last season, 124 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 8 tackles for losses, 5 passes defense, 2 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries. This guy's an impact linebacker. He's making 11.7 this year, entering the last year of his deal. Clearly, he would want an extension. You could roll the dice and make a trade for him and just ride it out and do a 1-year thing. But do you want to give up that kind of resource where he may walk after a year? So what do you think they do here with this? Could this be something that they make a move on?
They're so bad right now that, what really could they do to keep him happy? He's unhappy because they have nothing left. The cupboard is bare. So he virtually feels as though they're wasting him as a player and his youth on a team that virtually has no way of getting back to being a dominant team anymore, a dominant defense. They don't have enough. So he's ready to get out of there because they have nothing. It has nothing to do with money. I'm sure they could pay him, but he wants to get out and be able to compete. And They have nothing competitive about Tampa Bay right now.
Unless you just blatantly overpay him if you're Tampa, just throw crazy money at him.
Right. And they're not doing that. Not the linebacker position, no.
The fact that the Eagles didn't even try to sign T.J. Edwards, who is perfect for this defense, tells you what they think of the linebacking situation with this organization, and that has been status quo with this team for a long time.
Right.
They'd rather go out and hire mercenaries at a bargain basement price than to pay one of their own. T.J. Edwards, if you look at the numbers he got from Chicago, they were numbers that could have been manageable even with this team. And even though TJ may have wanted to go closer to home, he probably would have stayed here. If you get that close to a Super Bowl and you basically go to Chicago, which is not ready to be considered in the same breath, that tells you 2 things. Number one, what they even offered you was probably disrespectful. And number 2, they really didn't make much of a push to try to keep you. I mean, look at how TJ came on this last year compared to 2021. He was as stout as that defense was in general. He was the brain trust in that defense, in the middle of that defense.
Yep.
And they didn't even attempt to keep him. They let him go. So that tells you, I don't see them trading for. You think they're going to pay a linebacker $11-12 million?
No,
and
I don't.
Give him an extension on top of that?
I think linebacker is slightly above running back on the food chain.
On the total bowl,
yeah.
Right.
Like it's not quite as low. It's
right.
more of a priority, but it's not a gigantic priority to them.
No, they don't believe in paying guys like that. They haven't. Najee Davenport was the last time they really paid. Not Najee Davenport, but Najee.
I know you're talking about. Good dude.
Najee Good.
Najee
Good was the last person they played. No, they didn't even pay him. They
didn't pay him. Yeah.
No, they made.
And he came back on a bargain deal.
Yeah, I can't remember the last linebacker that I'm talking about really got paid. Like Tone sends us a note that Spotrac, which is excellent, has White's potential market value at $20 million a year.
They ain't paying him that. No.
I mean, there's no prayer that happens.
No.
They wouldn't pay half that.
No, heck no.
They're usually pretty good at when they throw those type of numbers out.
Yeah, they are.
They
I think the numbers are right for what's projected. I'm saying the Eagles won't pay it.
No,
not for a linebacker.
I can't think of the last time they paid a linebacker.
They'll pay a secondary person. They'll pay edge rushers and they'll pay their D tackles, but they will not pay a linebacker that kind of money.
Well, like Dion says, Bradham is falls in line with what they generally will do. Like they'll
his contract was horrible.
Huh?
Remember we talked about his contract was horrible. Like his contract, he was making next to nothing, and it's like this inflated number, and all the money was at the tail end. He never even got to that money.
Right. That's what they do, though. It's like it's either somebody who's a free agent who there isn't a huge market. Like, for example, Kaiser White. I think Kaiser got 5 last year, something like that, 5 or 7. They'll go after that kind of guy or make a minor trade where he's not. They're just not. They don't. They pay. We know the positions they pay. They pay quarterback. They pay end. They play receiver. They corner. Pay corner. That's it. Defensive tackle they'll pay to an extent for sure, but that's it. They don't pay linebacker. They don't pay running back generally. They don't pay safety, usually big time money.
Well, last person they played as far as big time safety was Malcolm and his running mate. Who's the other guy? Malcolm and
Rodney McLeod.
And McLeod, yeah.
But even that where they weren't like monster.
Right. They weren't like huge deals. But come to think about it, Eagles are pretty damn cheap.
Well,
they are, man. If you're handing in the trenches and you're not a quarterback, they don't usually pay you. I mean, it surprised me that they paid AJ right off the bat with $100 million contract, and he's well worth it as so far. It kind of.
I mean, do you think they're cheap? I just think they only will spend at certain positions.
Right. Well,
I think they're principled. Whether again, you could argue it, but that's just kind
cornerstone positions. The cornerstone position they pay. Cornerstone position are tackles, offensive tackles, defensive linemen, corners, and quarterbacks. Those what you call cornerstone positions on teams. Everything else is like fill in. You fill in at safety, you fill in at linebacker, you fill in. I mean, and then there are exceptions like Kelsey. Usually you don't play centers like that, and you don't play guards like that. That's why I don't have a problem letting guards go. But traditionally, start with Big Red. You're going to pay them big tackles. You're going to pay your bookends. You're going to pay your defensive line, whether it's interior or even edge rushers. You're going to pay those guys. They've always paid them. They've always paid cornerbacks, and they've always paid quarterbacks. Other than that, everything else is just fill in. Even the tight end position, I guess over the last 2 years, they did pay the tight ends that were here the last, couple of years. With Hurts and Goddard. Yeah. But usually they don't even do that.
And they didn't pay centers until Kelsey came along, obviously.
Exactly. So those cornerstone positions on the edges, man, that's where they pay, man. Like the farther you get into the interior, like at safety, linebacker, guard, and center, they don't usually pay. Defensive linemen, they're going to pay. Offensive tackles, they're going to pay.
Mm-hmm.
See, Nigel Bradham in 2018 signed a 5-year, $40 million deal.
Right. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
But then when even agents start coming out on Twitter talking about how bad of a deal it was, they cut him after 2019.
Right.
So 2 seasons into a 5-year deal, they cut him.
It was all backloaded.
So he didn't get half that money. He didn't even get good money guaranteed in that deal. So they're not going to pay Devin White. They're not going to come close to that.
I agree. So I think we're all in agreement. That's highly unlikely.
And what fellas, I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. I know what it is to be lined up across from a guy like Brian Urlacher. You know what I'm saying? I've been in those type of situations when I'm looking right across the way at Ray Lewis. And you have to account for that guy wherever he is, or Sam Mills, or somebody like that. It's tough being able to block that guy and worry about the defensive line. Those really Hardy Nickerson, all these guys balled at the linebacker position. They don't really have any special players like that. You could say Micah Parsons, but Micah plays everywhere on the line, linebacker, and he's more of a rush type of guy. I don't see him as a coverage type of guy. Mm-hmm. I don't see him as a run defender either. I think that he's just a rush linebacker that rushes from 100 different ways. He's not the traditional linebacker that can go up in coverage, cover, blitz. He can blitz, but it's usually around the line of scrimmage where he makes everything happen.
Yeah, I hear you. So a couple other things to hit here, and is kind of looking ahead here at the schedule. So they get with the uneven number now where we sit, at least right now. I think we're going to 18 soon, guys, but we're still at 17. 9 road games, 7 home games. Now they will play the AFC East and the NFC West. They'll play a first-place schedule as well. Their home games are Dallas, Washington, New York, the usual suspects. They will play Arizona at home. They'll play Buffalo at home, Miami, Minnesota, and San Francisco. So
at home.
That's all home.
Yes.
Let's start with the home schedule. Now, I think we all agree the division's going to be really challenging like it was last year. Dallas has had their number, for sure. Washington, we'll see about the quarterback situation. New York, we'll see what the second year looks like. I like Dable and their GM are good, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see with New York. Arizona's going to be bad for sure. Buffalo's good. It's kind of a prove it year for them, but they're still good. Miami, if Tua's healthy, it has a lot of talent. That is a talented roster.
Yes, they are.
Minnesota's talented for whatever we say about them, and I think they have a good coordinator in place. And then there's San Fran, who's going to want a little revenge. So this is a pretty good home schedule. There isn't, other than Arizona, there's no cupcakes there.
No.
A little rivalry going on now with the 49ers. It's a little rivalry.
All the nonsense they talk.
Yeah,
all the whining and crying.
Yeah, it's a little rivalry there. Man, and going into Arrowhead, I like that. I like that. I like going into Arrowhead, hostile situation. This is where hey, we're gonna see if this head coach really got it, man. Does he really have it? This is. I can't wait for that game, man. I'm looking forward to that game.
There's no shame in losing at Arrowhead. Many good teams go into Arrowhead and lose those. And I'm not saying the Eagles are going to lose that game, but that's one of the toughest venues in all of pro football to try to win a game at. And I'm tossed. I'm at a toss up at that particular game. I'm curious if the Jets do get Aaron Rodgers. I'm curious to see what this Jets team is going to look like by the time the Eagles face them. That's going to be an interesting game because the Jets have talent on both sides of the football. They're good on defense.
Exactly.
Good on offense.
Yeah, bro.
And you got Aaron Rodgers now loaded with weapons. Like even in Aaron Rodgers' best days, he's never had the collection of pass catchers that he's going to have in New York.
Nope.
Nope. Are you kidding me? Aaron Rodgers in 23 is going to be like a kid in a candy store with all these tight end, running back, wide receivers. Are you kidding me? He's got everything he's dreamed about having in Green Bay.
And he's also got a lot to prove in this sense. We all know he's a future Hall of Famer, but he's got a lot to prove because even by his standards, there's just been a lot of nonsense this past offseason, right? So I think people go in like really sick of Aaron Rodgers and rooting against Aaron Rodgers. And I think a guy like that can feed off of it and use it as fuel.
That's a good point. He has to prove that he's not that bad guy that he's portrayed to be. And let's face it, he's brought a lot of this on himself with some of his antics over the last 3 years. So he's got to go out and prove that he's the consummate leader, consummate teammate, and that it's not about me, it's about we, in terms of wanting to win. I mean, he's won everything you want. He's got a Super Bowl. He's won his MVPs. He was considered the best of the best in his heyday, but one of the strongest, most accurate arms ever to play the game. And now he's put himself on this island by himself. Everything he's done over the last 3 years has been considered about him. And when he goes on these talk shows and saying, that's not true, that's not true. Well, the only way you're going to prove people wrong is by your play. So now you're being put in a situation where you have every toy you could want. You've got a decent offensive line. You've got you got good running backs behind you. You have a plethora of pass catchers. You can just throw the ball up, and some of these guys should be, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard. These guys should just be able, just be able to go up and get whatever you throw. So
Corey
there's no
Davis
more excuses now.
Big target too, man.
Yes,
Corey
and they
Davis.
forget about him.
Yeah,
They forget about him.
He has a good running attack too. Breece Hall was awesome last year. Really got hurt.
Bro, this is he lives for this. He lives for these type of opportunities. He doesn't care about anything we talk about, has not cared about anything we've been talking about. He lives with these circumstances where he can come in and say, look, I told you, and he has a head coach that's taking receipts.
Yeah, there's a lot of receipts there between he and his head coach. It's going to look like you went to CVS with the receipts that are coming out of that thing. So I think the road schedule's a lot other than Kansas City. I think it's less challenging. You know, depending on the Jets situation, you get the Rams, which should be, you know, I know it's not easy going to the West Coast. You get Tampa Bay,
Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle's okay. That's a tough place to go, but you know, so look, there aren't a lot of layups here. It's definitely way harder than last year. Now that's on paper. We know teams have injuries. We know teams, some go down, some go up that we don't expect, right? But it pretty tough schedule. I would, if anybody's expecting 14-3, I think you're nuts.
I agree 100%. I agree.
You see 3 losses on this schedule?
I mean, I see. I'm not looking at low. I'm looking at 12 wins.
Well, that's 12-5. Then.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I see at least 12, maybe even 13 wins. Like, I don't think that everybody's talking about Dallas. I mean, we split with Dallas last year, and all things being equal and healthy, and we're on the same field, we're a better team than even Dallas. When I look at them on paper, we're a better team than Dallas. On paper, we're a better team than San Fran. On paper, we're actually a better team than Buffalo. Also on paper, you know what I'm saying? To me, and then when I look at Kansas City, weapon for weapon, we have more weapons. It's just they have the ultimate weapon.
They have the ultimate weapon. Yes.
Yeah, they have the ultimate weapons. But I mean, like I said, all things being equal, when you look at this team, even right now, without the draft, they could still go out there and ball out and play at a very high level.
Yes. Yeah.
Defensively and offense. We know offensively they're going to be all that. But even defensively, they have guys in place right now that can compete at a high level. I'll take our defensive line against any offensive line in the league right now. The way it's constructed right now, man for man, I like our chances. Even with getting rid of Hargrave, we don't have Hargrave anymore. I think the biggest thing that we lost on that defense that we haven't been able to get, an equal or a couple players that can virtually get to equal is Hargrave. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's talking about CJGJ. All right, we lost him. He's not there anymore. But when I look at him and I look at what we have here now, bro, I mean, I like our chances with them. You know what I'm saying? I like our chances with what we've went out there and in free agent market and got. I'm telling you right now, we will get better safety play than we had last year with CJGJ. And say what you want to say. We can go play for play. When I look at CJGJ halfway through the season, booty quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? These quarterbacks weren't that good. But I look at the guy we have back there now. Terrell Edmonds is a much better safety than he is. He knows his run fits. He knows we're supposed to be on pass plays. It took CJGJ a lot of time to get into those run fits. A lot of those run plays early in the season were because of him. They broke loose because he didn't know where he fitted within the scheme work of being a safety in the defense. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
I just think
the defense.
I hear you. I think there's a lot of talent. I agree. I also just think we know how hard it is when you're the team that's trying to come back from getting to the Super Bowl. It just seems like stuff happens. Look what's happening with the Phillies. Like stuff that's out of your control in terms of injuries, and then there's just other stuff where you press.
That's always, man. That's always. I mean, it's now you're the hunted. You know what I'm saying? We shocked a couple people the first 4 games. Then we settled in, and everybody knew, all right, this is the team to beat, and they still couldn't beat us. You got to have that mindset and that attitude. And the reason why I talk the way I'm talking right now is because I've been in that mind state before. The year before we went to the Super Bowl, we were 15-1 during the season, 15-1,
right,
and then lost to the Patriots in the championship game. Came back that next year and won it all. So it's not, to me, it's a mindset. We knew when we stepped on the field that we were a better team than anybody we were playing against. So, that's the mindset we had. So we beat people just by just showing up. Now the Eagles, they got to show up. But you got to have that mindset that, all right, I don't care who we're playing against. We are the superior team. And I think they have that type of sense about them because of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts will really get those guys going in the right direction. his preaching, his understanding on what his role is on this team can get those guys going in the right direction.
Well, Derek, what do you think in terms of win total? Where are you at with this?
I'm torn somewhere between 10 and 12 right now.
Yeah, I'm a 12. I'm 11, 12.
And the reason being is, I agree with everything Barrett said. When you look at man for man on paper, Eagles are better than Dallas. But Dak Prescott has had their number forever. So that's
absolutely.
The Jets are a much better team. Going in, what was Seattle's biggest weakness? Defense. They were one of the worst. What did they do this offseason? Spend money on defense to go with that offense.
Oh, and by the way, they're going to get their first pick.
Yeah,
Mr. Carter, Jalen Carter. He'll be their first pick.
So you have to go into the two toughest road venue. There are three tough road venues. 49ers come here though, but the two toughest road venues on that schedule are Kansas City and Seattle. And I've been to those stadiums many times, man. It's like your ears are ringing a day after you leave that place. And I'm sitting in a press box. I'm not even in the lower bowl where you hear most of that sound. Seattle offensively was fine. Now the defense appears are going to catch up to the offense. They've done so. Those are games that can go either way. Jets game could go either way. Buffalo game could go either way. You just don't know. So I'm saying the two gimmies on their schedule. And I hate to say that because any given Sunday, anything can happen. The two gimmies on paper on the schedule right now are Tampa Bay and the Rams. Outside of that, the other opponent's Washington, who's their quarterback. We agree, Jacoby Brissett can manage an offense. And look at what he has at his disposal in terms of running backs and wide receivers. Okay, the Giants, they have a quarterback who can manage.
Jacoby Brissett there.
Yeah, and the Giants have a quarterback who played much better under Brian Daboll than he did any time in his career.
Yep.
Okay, so there's so many games, and we can sit here and we do it all the time as everybody else does. They're better than this team. They can do that. Yeah, but when they line up, crazy things happen. We see this happen time and time again. So that's why I'm teetering between 10 and 12 wins right now. And of course, we don't even know what the draft holds. Look at how many draft picks the Jets got last year. They turned out to be primetime players for them.
Yep.
Okay. And there are other teams that had, look at Dallas. Dallas spent all those draft picks on defense. They weren't a shutdown defense, but they were a faster, much better defense, especially their front. Their front was lethal in terms of attacking the quarterback. They blitzed all game long. That's kept them in a lot of games.
Yeah.
Ability to do that.
Yeah.
So as when you don't win, what's the saying? When you don't win the Super Bowl, you allow other people to creep up on you and get closer to you. And that's what other teams are doing. So here we go with this watch again. I got to take it off.
What the heck?
I got to take that watch off.
That was like Barrett. Barrett had the watch that was like jammed in the couch or whatever. You remember that? And you're oh my God.
You kept talking.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take that watch in the backyard and have somebody throw it. I'm going to say pull and take a gun and
exactly.
shoot it in there.
Old yellow on the watch.
Kept going out. And as soon as 1 o'clock came,
Boom.
the alarm was started. I'm like, where is it at? I couldn't find it anyway. I finally found it.
Unbelievable. All right, so we will get back to the football talk at 2. So what we're looking at a couple different things. We'll dig a little bit further into the Saquon thing. DeAndre Hopkins is on the market. Where will he end up? What's a landing spot?
Buffalo.
Yeah, it could be. Which new coach will have the biggest impact this year? And dive into the inside linebacker prospects. And there's some studs, man. There are some really good players, but will the Eagles take one? How high will they invest into that position? So we'll talk about it all when we get back. All right. In the meantime, I'll give you the lineup for today's game, and we'll talk about what's going on with Aaron Nola, with the Phillies base running, with the 4-7 start. We'll get into all that when we return. Don't go anywhere. That's Derek Barrett. I'm Rob. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's smash that like button. Let's talk about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with those finances of yours can be tricky, right? And we know how critical it is. You work way too hard to not invest well in your future and your present. But I can tell you from personal experience, the Jim and Principal Financial Group are people to trust, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. You might have a small business and you're trying to get your employee benefits off the ground. That's another resource that Jim can assist you with. I know personally, I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollover, and other investments with Jim. and I couldn't be any happier. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You can also email him, Murray, MURRAY.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.